So, do you need IOIs to approach? And the answer is no. So I talk a lot about forcing IOIs because it's an efficient way of maximizing the chance of a positive response when you approach a girl. And by forcing IOIs, you're aiming to get a clear idea of how your approach will be received prior to approaching. You're also aiming to get girls to notice you who ordinarily would not. However, it is not necessary to get an IOI to approach. There are some circumstances where you would just cold approach anyway. For example, if she's walking in front of you and she can't see you. If you think back to my well-known video where I approached the Colombian girl, she was in front of me. I was staggering around, half drunk, and I kind of chased after her, approached her from her side, and grabbed her gently on her lovely Colombian arm and turned around. So that was an example where obviously there was no IOI, and I just approached anyway, and I got a good result, as I'm sure you're aware. So the bottom line is, receiving an IOI from a girl is a great way of pumping your state prior to approaching and getting girls to notice you and improving your odds of success. But you should still be cold approaching girls without IOIs. The second question that I've been asked before, and that maybe guys are confused about, is do you need to be really good looking to get IOIs? And I did a related video on this, which is on a post on the site, and I'll link it below. But basically the answer is no. I've always said though that it helps to maximize your aesthetic, and I've talked a lot about that. And as you might be aware, I even wrote a post and did a video briefly about cosmetic surgery. That's also on the site, and I shall link that too. But the bottom line is, no, you don't need to be super good looking to get IOIs, because your appeal as a man is not just about your aesthetic. As I explained in the video, which you'll see on the site, your sub-communications are a powerful way of increasing your chance of positive responses from girls. So I've personally witnessed lots of average-looking men suddenly shoot up their positive responses from women by improving their sub-communications. And if you think about it, why do you think boot camp instructors constantly pump the guy's state? Because they know they leverage this fact that by pumping their state and improving their sub-communications, they increase the probability of success for guys. Of course, you can't constantly pump your state because it's exhausting, as you probably know. So what you need is to be able to have a good base state and to be able to execute stateless game. And there's a massive long section on this in Primal Seduction, which is also linked below. Now, what about if you think to yourself, but I never get IOIs, what should I do? Well, I'd ask the question, A, have you maximized your aesthetic? I used to teach one-on-ones and boot camps, and I'd estimate, I don't know, 70%, 80% of the guys hadn't maximized their aesthetic. Despite all this knowledge, all this information, all these YouTube videos, all these posts about it over the many, many years, 70 or 80% hadn't done that. So if you haven't, get on it. Second point, are you generally in a good state? And the third point is, how good is your awareness? Now the last point about awareness is key. I explain in The Secret Society that I've been shocked over the years about how unaware most guys are of the subtle signs that women send out all the time, all the bloody time. So if you've maxed out on points 1 and 2, in other words, if you've maximized your aesthetic and you're generally in a good state, then you need to think about your level of awareness. Because spotting IOIs and increasing your overall awareness takes practice and patience. And there's a big section on this in The Secret Society. And if you really don't ever get IOIs, well, I don't believe you. Check around online and you'll see reports from guys all over the internet who talk about how shocked they are at the positive responses they receive from women when they start approaching. But there are some cases of guys who have what I call broken links. Something fundamental that's hindering their ability to attract the women that they want. And just briefly, these are usually things like, and I've just listed them here, lacking enthusiasm on the approach and listless approach. So you have to give the girl a reason to be intrigued with you. If you're just spam approaching one girl after another and delivering the same line again and again, it doesn't help. Instead, try reducing your approaches and being specific and direct when you approach her. Aim for 3 quality approaches rather than 20 spam approaches and see how you go. Now on the subject of spam approaches, I'm going to write a post probably tomorrow all about spam approaches, and I'll expand on it there. But basically, just try it. Try reducing the amount of approaches you do. Try and get away from spam approaching. Be direct, sincere, specific compliment when you approach her, and see how you get on. Try doing 3 instead of 20 for a week and see how it goes. Another thing that guys are usually missing is they don't cross the line and there's no sexual tension when they approach. This one is obviously absolutely key, because you absolutely have to create sexual tension. You have to cross the line and you can't really sneak it up on her. To get her intrigued, you need some sort of mystique, and the best way to create this is with sexual tension. And there's about a 20-minute section on that in The Secret Society. Another reason, this is less common, but it's still fairly common, is a generally poor mindset, and I have to say it, misogyny and resentful of women. It's less common, but it's toxic, absolutely toxic. You only need to peruse the manosphere for an hour or two to get the sense of a general resentment towards women. It might well be true that modern societies are set up to benefit women at the expense of men, and of course that's completely unfair. But that doesn't help you when you're trying to pick up that cute 22-year-old girl in hot pants with a cracking arse walking around Warsaw, does it? Bottom line, you need to find your love for women again, and perhaps curb your manosphere and red pill reading. I've always held the view that men who are good with women actually love women, and if you're reading toxic stuff, it will seep through into your mindset. I'd also point out that you need to question who you are reading. Do they strike you as actually being good with women? If they don't, why bother reading them? I'll refer you again to my book Primal Seduction, because I absolutely do love women, and you'll pick up on this if you read it too. Let it seep into your psyche rather than the toxic manosphere trash. I'm not saying it's all trash, of course not, but there is a lot of it about. So I hope this helps. If you suspect you have a broken link or any questions, drop me a comment and I'll try to help. Do check out the post on the site. There's a little bit more information on there, some nice pictures too, and I put links to Secret Society and Primal Seduction below in the description also. Have a good weekend and I'll speak to you soon.